everybody, welcome to Back Issues. I'm Sal.
I'm Ethan.
I'm Ben.
This is the book that Marvel desperately gave to Todd to keep him from leaving. Pitched a fit every chance he could to try and like change things for himself.
Hey, how come I can't draw Spider-Man with all these chains on him?
Right.
And it's a big cool cape.
Now, if you did put Spider-Man in chains and a cape, would he look practically exactly like Spawn? That's up for the courts to decide. But
I would say he's at least 25% different.
I'd say you're right.
What did Todd do before Spider-Man?
He did Hulk. He had a very small stint on Batman with DC.
Oh.
But those are the books.
What were his complaints? That they wouldn't let him draw Hulk the way he wanted to? Or?
No.
Could do the stories probably.
It was a lot of things. It was mostly just that he's an entrepreneur and a businessman, and he wanted all the money he could possibly get.
Right.
And he knew that his drawings were what were getting people to buy Spider-Man in the numbers that Spider-Man was earning when he was on the book, on Amazing Spider-Man. And in a way, Marvel was like, we don't want to share those profits with you because they are record-setting profits.
And we like money.
But we also want to keep you because you make us money. So maybe we'll just all pretend like your problems are creative-based. And so they created Spider-Man, or as they call it, the adjectiveless Spider-Man. And they were like, here's your whole book. You get to write it and draw it. You can do whatever you want within reason. And they always had notes, and I think Danny Fingeroth was the editor, and like in Torment, he was, it's this epic story. It's the Lizard's most recognizable story, and I think Todd wanted to use Harry Osborn, the Green Goblin, and Fingeroth's like, no, that doesn't work. And by the way, he was right to change it, and it works so much better with Lizard. So I'm glad that happened, and it's like just proof that collaboration is key.
Right.
But he had done 2 arcs on his adjectiveless Spider-Man series, Torment, and then another one. That was the one where it was Spider-Man and Ghost Rider fight Hobgoblin. If we want to touch Danny Ketch Ghost Rider, Tiffany can do that one because it's got Hobgoblin in it, and listen, it looks dope because it's Todd and he's like proving himself.
Drawing Ghost Rider.
Drawing Ghost Rider.
Yeah, I want to see that.
Yeah, and it looks awesome. Yeah.
Get Tiffany over here.
Right.
Get off the couch.
Trust me, we will cover that one day. But in Perceptions, which is technically Spider-Man number 8. So Perceptions is written and drawn by Todd McFarlane. I believe that Todd also inks it. When Todd inks his own work, it's always better. Like, it just looks better. Todd is kind of like eased into, if he does comic work, it's going to be inking or writing. You should think Spawn when you're reading this because it's 100% just Todd doing Spawn. Like he's
getting the ideas for it.
Yeah, he's preparing for Spawn. There's a lot of that in this in terms of the plot. Like, this is not a Spider-Man story by any stretch of the imagination. There's a couple things that Todd is clearly doing in it. Number one, Wolverine's in it. Todd hasn't really gotten a chance to work on Wolverine, so it's Todd McFarlane's Wolverine. And it's like very shortly before he leaves forever and will create Spawn and form Image Comics with his fellow creatives.
Right.
But this is his last Wolverine, basically. So it better be dope. And Wolverine is basically the main character of the story. Yeah.
That's adjectiveless Spider-Man. It could be anything.
That's right.
It could even be a Wolverine book.
We're just saying Spider-Man.
That's more or less what happens.
The point is you're picking it up because it says Spider-Man. He's on the cover.
And he's
And
in
he
the
does
book.
appear in the
Spider-Man
book.
appears in the book,
It's
and he
not-
does.
what-
Not
what's gonna
technically
be inside.
alive.
You don't. Well, that's the thing, is that like this is going to be something you've never seen before. And it's true. While Torment is the one everyone remembers, there's not a lot of structure to it. It's just kind of like stuff that happens until it stops. There isn't really a climax or any kind of resolution that is satisfying. Stuff just, like Lizard goes nuts for no reason, and then he's just gone. And that's it. And you're like, damn it. What? With this, at least he's trying to like formulate a story, and he's really going for it because this is also one of the few times that he's given an opportunity to write. So he's like, I'm gonna write. And clearly, he's also watching Twin Peaks.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's 1990, and it's referenced in the book itself.
Was that just because it was popular at the time?
It was so popular that Todd was watching it, and he was allowing it to influence the story that he wrote called Perceptions. So the story, such that it is, will be narrated throughout in the form of editorials written by a newspaper columnist who previously did not exist and will never be used ever again after the story is concerned.
But Todd owns her now.
No, he does not, because he
doesn't,
created
they
her
weren't
for
doing
Marvel.
that.
That's done.
Yeah.
And that's Anna Brooks.
That starts later.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's part of the reason why he left.
Yeah.
But Anna Brooks is this newspaper columnist who was driving through British Columbia. That's right, the story takes place in Canada, where Todd McFarlane is from. And
He's Canadian?
He is Canadian. He's from Alberta.
Huh.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Wolverine's Canadian too, right?
That's right. So that explains why Wolverine's in the book.
You need something from home.
And you know who else is Canadian? Wendigo!
Oh.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, that was a reveal I was not expecting. I thought it was going to be Morbius.
No, Morbius is in the next arc.
I saw the hair and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's got to be.
The eyes look like Morbius.
No,
too.
Morbius is in a 2-part story in the next one.
Okay.
2 or 3. It's too short to be a trade, but
But it's
not-
definitely part of it.
yeah, but it's in this.
It's like an interim.
Yeah, I thought about doing it. And I'm like, it's kind of short and nonsensical.
And also, we don't want to touch anything Morbius with a 10-foot pole right now.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Anna's driving through British Columbia when she sees what she can't identify as the Wendigo in the middle of the street holding a body. And she swerves to miss it. She doesn't, and she hits the Wendigo with her car, and she is hurt, but survives. And the Wendigo just leaves, just like wanders off like a moose in the middle of
God,
Canada.
I thought there was going to be a Harry and the Hendersons kind of moment
Yeah,
where
she
she has
takes-
to strap it to the car and take it home.
Takes it home, teaches it language, makes it part of the family. No! No, this is a cautionary story about media sensationalism.
Oh,
That's what this is about.
great. 5-part story about media sensationalism.
I'm gonna draw some eyes on my eyelids like Homer, and every once in a while you just nudge me so it
Yeah.
looks like I'm included.
Just
Okay.
focus on the fantastic art.
Every time anyone, anywhere, needs to use art for Wendigo in anything, they pull from this story. Which is funny because Wendigo is a victim in the story and is not in any way the aggressor.
Cool.
Wendigo discovers the body of a small boy who was raped and mutilated, and he takes it, or it takes it. We don't know who the Wendigo was because, of course, the Wendigo myth is, at least in the Marvel Universe, that as long as you are living in Canada and consume the flesh of a human being, you may, in fact, be cursed to become the Wendigo, and as such, there's a Wendigo loose in Canada. Could it be the Wendigo from the previous stories? Maybe, but there's multiple Wendigos. So
Right.
let's just call it Wendigo and leave it at
Apparently, a
that.
lot of cannibalism in Canada.
Yeah.
Winters are rough.
Pioneer
That's all we're
days.
saying.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. And Wendigos, we don't know what their
They live a
lifespan
while, right?
is.
Yeah.
Exactly.
This could be from the 1800s.
Yeah, we don't know how old this Wendigo is. At this point, it probably remembers being a Wendigo more than being a man, or woman for that matter. In any case, Wendigo discovers this poor dead boy and haplessly is hit by Anna Brooks's car in the process. So when Anna recovers, she sees the body of the boy and assumes the worst. She assumes that Wendigo or some creature, a creature. She doesn't refer to it as Wendigo. She doesn't see
Doesn't know
what it
what
looks
a Wendigo
like.
is.
Has no idea.
She also doesn't call it a Sasquatch.
She calls it a Sasquatch.
Never mind.
She specifically does call it a Sasquatch.
She does indeed, and it's all about it. The police will discover white hair or fur in her car, embedded in the car, so that'll add to the mystery. And when she discovers the boy, the first person she calls is her editor. And she is not too proud of it, but she does recognize that is the first instinct she had.
That is a good move for a reporter to do.
He's already dead. All
He's not
right?
going to get any deader.
Yeah.
But my career certainly is. I don't want my career to resemble this boy in any way.
Oh, no.
So, anyway, so she calls her editor, and it ends up becoming a big thing because what destroyed her car? Did a beast from the Canadian wilderness kill this small boy? There's another boy missing. Is there an epidemic? And so it sparks a fire that becomes a media circus that descends on this small Canadian town. Now, of course, Brooks was there originally to talk about loggers and environmentalists, but who gives a shit about that? That's a page 3 story.
Oh,
This is
great.
a page 1 story.
It's important to us now.
Well, Sasquatches are murdering little boys. Let's do that. And then media descends on Canada. The RCMP, which is, of course, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. He refers to it without any asterisk or definition. So like if you just see just like, oh, the RCMP was starting a
Everyone
search.
knows what the RCMP is.
Naturally. And I'm like, we don't even see a horse in this story, by the way. They're mounted in only by their authority.
And then he's not wearing the hat, the distinctive.
No, they
hat.
look like cops.
Yeah.
Now, the guy actually you're seeing with like the real policeman's hat is Chief Inspector Cron, and Chief Inspector Cron is the like point man for the media in this case. They of course like recovered the boy's remains, and he sent the records, or rather had the boy inspected in Vancouver rather than where they are.
Okay.
Which is to say, a small Canadian town.
We're gonna send it to a place that has the facilities.
Actual medical stuff.
But also much further away and much harder to get like information
So
from.
they could cover up if they
chose to. Not only does it inspire tons of media attention, but it also inspires all of these like wilderness hunters to just go into the woods with their guns blazing and just shoot anything that moves, which results in the slaughtering of hundreds of different wilderness animals throughout Canada. So that's a problem. We also get a really fun
classic start to a Spider-Man story.
yeah, Canada, animal murder, child murder,
Wendigo.
Wendigos, all the basic tenets of a Spider-Man story. Now that's the thing is,
the best thing he could do is hope to go up there and get pictures for the Daily Bugle.
well, that's why he gets roped into it, because of course it's a media circus, so
Right.
Jameson won't be left out of the ring.
Of course not.
He won't let like the fact that it's happening like half a country away
Hell no!
from his home city deter him.
That's
from
only like a 13-hour
covering
drive,
it.
although I don't actually know. I know that that's where like Ontario is. For us, Ontario is only like, what, 12, 13 hours.
Yeah, something
but
like that.
I don't know where Hope or Chilliwack is, but I guarantee you they're all real names of real towns in Canada. Another thing that I really enjoy is the use of newspaper headlines to show you how the situation is worsening throughout the chapters. It doesn't hurt. They also like look like real headlines,
Yeah.
which I think is really cool.
Oh, and the fact that it's going international.
Yes,
Vancouver Sun, Calgary Herald, then the Los Angeles Post and the Washington Post.
Yeah, that's right. It's like, that's cool. That's a cool way to like show we get it, but also look at all the text boxes of Anna just
talking about it.
talking about it.
Telling you what you can see on
Are
the
we
page.
reading her newspaper?
The ongoing narrative is the editorial, though I don't know any newspaper that would pay for the kind of meandering nonsense that she says. That being said, she also points out that basically because she is at the center of this storm, that she's the one who started this whole thing in the first
she
place.
hit the freaking thing with her
Yeah.
car.
She's ground zero. She is told by her editor like every single day, we better get an editorial from you on the site.
Right.
So like she's got to fill this space with something to say. At the timing of this recording, I am writing editorials for CBR, and I can't do it once a month. So I can't even imagine having to write a goddamn editorial when nothing is really happening, there's no new developments every single day in 1990. So meanwhile, in New York, Spider-Man is really giving this punk the business. It's actually kind of like mean-spirited and extreme, but it's also very consistent with Todd's Spider-Man. Todd's Spider-Man loves to give punks on the street a hard time. Now, this person that Spider-Man is giving a hard time to did threaten an old woman with a knife to her throat, so he doesn't deserve much sympathy.
Yeah.
But he gives Spider-Man a story in which he is a Ginsu knife salesman. Remember Ginsu knives, everybody?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
and he was just showing her an up close and personal demonstration. And Spider-Man webs him high above an alleyway and just sits on him and waits the hour it takes for the webbing to dissolve. And he's like, I want a confession out of you because if I don't get one, I'm gonna wait for this webbing to dissolve and you're just gonna fall into the garbage. And then he doesn't give a confession, but we find out that Spider-Man has been sitting on him for an hour, so he falls into the garbage anyway, and it's a significant drop.
Wow, it wasn't even like an empty threat.
No.
He let it.
He let it
fall in the
happen.
Garbage.
And he didn't get the confession.
What would the confession have done anyway?
I guess
He's Spider-Man. He's
Right.
not a police officer. It's not on tape.
I think it's just psychological warfare. I think it's like, not only did I beat you up and web you to a high area and threaten you with falling, but also I want you to tell me the truth.
Admit that you're a bad person.
You know, it's
Yeah.
bad enough when like when you're a kid and your parents catch you doing something wrong, It's like, we all know what I did. But like, to make me have to admit it too,
Right.
That's insult to injury, and it's all what Spider-Man is about.
Apparently. So does this guy die or what?
No, he just falls in the garbage and he laughs at him.
Oh.
And he leaves.
He's also probably hurt.
Oh, certainly. So Spider-Man goes home, realizing that he has been Spider-Manning for way later than he told Mary Jane he would be. So he's like, oh man, here we go. And he goes home.
We shouldn't have wasted an hour torturing that
An
guy.
hour? There's actually a weird thing about time in this. Not necessarily all of the reports and everything, but like, this story takes place over 12 days. And I'm like, no. Also, Spider-Man sits on this guy for an hour? No. Also, there's another moment at the end where time comes up and I'm like, okay, if I'm like 12 and I'm reading this, maybe. But then I'm reading it, I'm thinking about it again as an adult, and I'm like, that's a long time. Anyway, Spider-Man sneaks in and he finds Mary Jane is asleep, and he's like, jackpot. So the phone rings, it wakes up Mary Jane, and he goes, I'll get it, honey. And she goes, oh, Peter, you're here. When did you get back? And he's like, right after you fell asleep.
How would you know that?
Yep, I've been here the whole time.
Yeah. Well, like, I found that you fell asleep and I arrived, and so Jameson calls Peter and he's like, I need you to go to Canada in 25 minutes. Like, well, I need you to be packed and ready to go in 25 minutes.
Oh, okay, good.
So let's go. And so that's just, we get to see, you know.
Is that normal for Spider-Man? He gets sent all over the world?
Actually, yeah, sometimes. Well, when they want him to cross over with other characters. Like,
Right.
sometimes
When it's
Jameson will
convenient
send
for
him
the
to the
narrative.
Everglades and he'll
Yeah.
team up with Man-Thing. Like, that's a thing. Or one time, during the Clone Saga, the original one, he was sent to France. So, yeah.
Right. Okay.
So Spider-Man just gets on a plane, he goes to Canada, and he is saddled with a reporter because he's just a photographer.
Right.
And-
Someone's got to write the story.
Exactly, and that character is going to be Melvin Gooner. And Melvin Gooner is a character that was created for the story and will never be used again.
With a name like that, how are you surprised?
Spider-Man doesn't like him. He's a nerd.
We're not meant to like him.
No.
Yeah. His name Gooner.
Yeah, Melvin Gooner. And Melvin Gooner is just like a crappy reporter, I guess. I guess it's a reporter that Jameson could afford to lose to the Canadian wilderness to report on Sasquatches?
Who's expendable?
Melvin Gooner. Gooner and Parker. Get on a plane.
Does Jameson have an opinion on whether the story is bullshit or real?
He couldn't care less. It's more just like, no, did you see the Washington Post and
Right.
the freaking
Everyone's
Los
on
Angeles?
this. We're
Everyone's
gonna be
on
on
it.
it too.
Daily Bugle won't be left behind.
Right.
Also, it's great because there's some fun storytelling in the headlines when you see those. The Calgary Herald, mutilated boy found. Daily News, killing continues. Daily Bugle, Bigfoot eats child. Like, the headlines are much more sensational and worse for the Daily Bugle.
That's awesome.
They're like a tabloid.
Yeah.
Yep.
They're a rag every other day. It's Spider-Man sucks. And I'm like, if I lived in New York and every goddamn day I had to pay for a newspaper that told me how much Spider-Man sucked, I'd be like, I'd either fall in line and be like, yup, or I'd be like,
guess he does.
enough with the Spider-Man bad.
I don't
What
understand
is
why
your
no one
problem?
else is on this Spider-Man story. He's a menace.
But like, yeah,
Says it right here.
But that's not a story. That's just your opinion every day.
It's just you yelling at into the ether.
Yeah, but like
Oh,
you
God.
you own a publishing house.
I just saw Chief Inspector.
Yeah,
Jesus. Okay.
yeah.
The
Chief
man is
Inspector.
a thumb with a face.
That's right, Chief Inspector Cron. Yeah.
Draw little eyes and a mouth, and that's his head
There
shape.
you go. That's right. But
Getting a very
I've seen people
distinct
who look like
impression
him.
from him, yeah.
Yeah. We also see some dogs because they discover another body, and the dogs are just freaking out over this body. But these are not dogs.
No.
That's not what a dog looks like.
Like, legitimately, when I was rereading the story, because I had this when I was a kid, and I was just like, and I remember like skipping all the Anna Brooks stuff. I'm like, that's a lot of words.
Oh my God, shut up.
But then when I skipped all the words, I'm like, there's nothing here. But when I was marveling at the art like the other day when I was rereading this, and I was like, man, this looks good. And then we got to the dogs, and I'm like, some of these dogs, which look like
pumas.
some of these cats.
What reference animal did you use?
He didn't.
Yeah.
That is
Like,
this memory.
do I know what a dog looks like? Yeah, I know what a dog looks like.
Like, oh shit. It
looks like
well,
this.
deadlines.
Fuck. That took
Well,
2
I already-
hours.
Oh no!
Well, that's what it looks
well,
like.
those are dogs now.
I already inked it.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's done. Sent over. So, yeah. So they sent Melvin and Peter to Canada. And meanwhile, it's like time has passed, and the Wendigo is just like, just existing in the woods. So Chief Inspector Cron and his dogs discover another body, and So they're just sweeping through the woods, and they're just like, okay, this is not going well,
Right.
because we got another body, and the news is not going to like this. So we get the smorgasbord of headlines that show you just how messed up it all is.
And Peter's still not there.
No, Peter's there.
Oh, he's
Peter's
there now.
arrived.
Oh,
And
okay.
he and Melvin get a chance to look at like the crime scene photos, which makes him like cry.
Oh.
We don't show that. We just see him in a Spider-Man costume for no reason, because he has no reason to be Spider-Man right now.
Right.
I think that the idea is that he's going to go web swinging
Through
because
the trees and maybe find something.
well, he's in like kind of like a not city.
Well, it's also how I clear my head and think.
Yeah. Well, he's in Chilliwack, which is more of a city than Hope. By the time the Daily Bugle gets to Hope, they're booked up, so they got to go to Chilliwack to So there's some time between travel.
Right.
But yeah, he's gonna clear his head because, like, yikes. Because Spider-Man doesn't see crime scene photos of children that are mutilated and possibly taken advantage of.
Right. This
So
has never happened before.
it rarely happens, if ever, in a Spider-Man comic.
That's a cute way to break up the panels of them being on the phone.
McFarlane used to do this a lot.
Yeah.
And I loved it every time. And it's something that, like, kids today would go, what is up with these weird borders?
Yeah. Why are there squiggles?
See,
all around?
kid, those are telephone cords.
I'm sorry, I'm just distracted by Wolverine's giant belt buckle.
That is
Yeah,
pretty big.
I love Wolverine's big belt buckles. I don't know why, but it's something that I always enjoyed. Sometimes when he wears the yellow and blue suit, the belt buckle is an X.
Yeah.
But when he's going on solo missions, it's a belt buckle. That shows that he's not part of any affiliation.
Right.
It's a solo Wolverine adventure.
Maybe it's a normal size belt and he's just really tiny.
I mean,
he
we
is
know he
small.
is. But yeah, I always like the big belt buckle. In any event, Wolverine just beats the crap out of some hunters and leaves some notes for them, like in the trees, using his claws that say like stop or knock it off.
Oh, and then like Man-Thing comes out of the woods and he's just like, hey,
Knock that off too.
not yet. Why are you hurting?
Now, he's in Florida. Thankfully, Man-Thing's not going to make the trek up there. He's near some swamps. So Wolverine like accosts a hunter.
Just proving to the hunter that what they were hunting is real and it is Wolverine.
No, they don't like go, oh shit, this is what the problem now. And now they hunt him, and maybe some of them
Yeah.
recognize him, and they're like, yeah, no, it's a mutant in the woods. Then it gets even, nope,
Damn.
got to keep it trim.
Yeah, that's a bigger story.
Yeah, no, that's too big. Wolverine is just, Spider-Man is there to report on the child slayings, maybe by a Sasquatch. Wolverine's there to protect the innocent animals that are caught in the crossfire.
He's protecting his homeland.
What the fuck is
that too.
going on in this book? Nothing is happening.
Yeah, welcome to the book, man. You're get ready for more. Because that's, I think Todd is inspired by Twin Peaks, where like every episode something fucking weird happens and you seemingly advance the plot, but not really.
Right.
It's more about the experience of watching the episode and being part of the world.
Yeah.
And then you remember,
drawing
like,
you
I just
in.
watched 6 episodes and nothing happened in those episodes. Like, no plot was advanced.
I got a lot of weird context though.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
all I did was learn more about characters in this world, but that didn't help me move this story forward. So Wolverine just gives this guy a hard time and is like, he says a lot of things, and it's not important what they are, because it's all about, like, being a big jerk and not thinking about the animals and thinking you're the apex predator and you're not, I am, and and don't tell anybody that Wolverine's here. Just try to persuade your hunter friends to knock it off, or I'm gonna stab you. And then he lets the guy go.
Why doesn't Wolverine try to do something about the problem that's driving these hunters into
Right,
the woods?
yeah.
Why isn't he like trying to be like a superhero?
Because he was sent to deal with the animals. He doesn't say by whom, and I think
Oh,
it's
he
by
was
himself, but he does blame someone else, and a mysterious third party that
Wolverine.
sent him.
Wolverine, it's Strauss.
Go to Canada and
Go to
save the
Canada
animals.
and save the animals and get the fuck out of here for a while.
Right, just
You're really
go
pissing me
away.
off.
Yeah, exactly. Cyclops like, hey, Chuck, could you get rid of Wolverine for like a weekend?
Who is this fucking guy and why does he look like that?
No one, and that's why. Because Todd likes
He
to
wanted to
draw
draw that.
wrinkles and folds and
It looks very similar to a face in Spawn Batman.
yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. No, 100%. I mean,
The guys that end up in the
yeah, they look like
machines.
the homeless guys.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. So Wolverine sends this hunter like to spread his legend. But he also doesn't trust him, so he cut ahead of the hunter and then etched in the hunter's car, "You promised," into the side. So like, I don't know if Wolverine picked this hunter because he knew that he was gonna use that guy's car, or if he let the hunter go but then ran way faster than the hunter and then etched it in the car and then disappeared. But either way, he tells the hunter, like, tell the other hunters not to hunt these poor animals, and to like slow your roll, then lets him go. And when the hunter gets back to his car, it says you promised in etchings.
Right.
And Wolverine, in his monologue, explains that he did that.
Yeah, I did that.
That's what this is. That's this
that
book. This book is in the comments. Pick it up if you want to read like really empty stories that are just excuses for Todd to draw cool depictions of Wolverine and Spider-Man and Wendigo.
So Wolverine's plan is to accost these hunters.
Yes, intimidation,
Who
shock and
are,
awe.
who are hunters, and tell them to stop hunting.
Yes, well,
But hunting is legal.
yes, but they're over hunting. Like they're doing it.
So
to
his
to
specific
excess.
message is like, hunt a normal amount, please.
Well, maybe like you've hunted enough.
Yeah, you're
for
done
this season.
hunting. The season's over.
Like they literally had to collect all the bodies of these hundreds of animals and just load them into a truck and dump them out of town because of how many animals were being slaughtered.
This is bizarre. Okay.
Look,
that's a
you need
problem
a truck
that
that
would
size
happen.
in Canada. You could kill 2 moose and fill it up.
That's right. That's why they have these trucks. So then we cut to Melvin and Spider-Man, Peter Parker, connecting. Like they're talking about the case. They know nothing about it outside of what they've gleaned from word of mouth and what they've been told by their point of contacts. But the excuse is to have Peter and Melvin in a scene together. And Melvin is putting ketchup on his donuts at this donut shop.
I was
makes
gonna
me
ask.
nauseous.
That's
So
what that was.
Peter is the exact same way, and I'm like, but okay, so have you ever seen that? Like,
Yeah. Why is that in this book?
like I know that they put mayonnaise on fries instead of ketchup,
right.
but I don't know about the ketchup donut thing. And Melvin isn't Canadian; he's just weird. Like, it's not like it's a Canadian thing to put ketchup on donuts. And for the life of me, I've never heard of that ever anywhere. He grabs his hand and he says, "If you put that in your mouth, I'm going to throw up on your face."
That's just a fun idea Todd had.
I'm like, what?
Like,
I'm
what
looking
if
at the
he
page and I'm
eats
like,
ketchup
is that
donuts?
Is that raspberry syrup?
Right. No.
Is it wine?
Right.
Is Melvin like some
very-
weird
yeah,
'cause
alcoholic and he's pouring it on his donuts?
It's very
in the morning?
viscous.
Yeah, it's splashing like ketchup never does.
That's
He even says like, "Geez, Peter, what a lightweight." And I was like, "Oh, maybe it's booze."
Yeah, no.
Getting an early start.
Yeah, no, it's ketchup and it's gross and he hates it. It's also a
yeah.
side on his breakfast. You get Canadian bacon, eggs, and 3 donuts.
So weird.
I mean, that's a normal Canadian breakfast.
They
I
do
guess.
Go to
eat-
Tim Hortons anytime.
They do. They do eat ketchup-flavored potato chips in Canada, which is a weird thing with ketchup.
We have that here.
But that's potatoes. We
Yeah,
put
at least
ketchup
those
on
things-
potatoes. French fries.
It's
Yeah.
true.
Home fries.
I'm
Yeah.
just saying, weird ketchup thing. From
Maybe these are
Canada.
potato donuts.
Oh, maybe.
Potonuts.
Would they still be filled with sugar though?
Yeah.
So gross.
Yes.
Maybe they're
Although
maybe
ketchup's
they're
filled with
unsweetened.
sugar,
They're like
So, yeah.
cake donuts, but potato cake donuts.
Yeah. Donatos.
Maybe.
I've never heard of that.
Except not because Peter's grossed out.
Yeah,
so
no.
he knows that they're just
Those are
regular
just donuts. So a glass bottle smashes through the window of their booth.
Because someone saw him putting ketchup on
And they had to
donuts.
stop
No!
him. No, it's
Stop it!
It's that like, it's that apparently someone leaked the information about the animal slaughter to Greenpeace, so now they're here too. Oh. And of course, the news is already there because of all the child murders, so like, it is just getting more and more chaotic, and so the Greenpeace people are like throwing shit at the.
Why would they attack the diner?
It was an errant bottle.
Oh.
So Peter meets the local old guy who's
Yeah,
watching, an onlooker, if you will.
The town chronicler.
Yes, who explains to Peter the content. Goes, they're looking for the wrong thing. They think it's a Sasquatch. Or no, I'm sorry. So they're looking for the wrong guy, eh? They think they're looking for Sasquatch, but it's actually the Wendigo.
How does he know that?
Because he's old and wise.
Because Sasquatch ain't real, but Wendigo is.
Wendigo is. Even though Sasquatch is real, he's a superhero on the Canadian supergroup known as Alpha Flight. But
That's
No,
how he
no,
knows
no, no.
it's not Sasquatch.
That's
Yeah.
Sasquatch.
Sasquatch is a
I'm
hero.
talking about a Sasquatch, not the Sasquatch.
exactly, please. But I know it's not even a Sasquatch. It's a Wendigo, eh? So Spider-Man hears Wendigo. He knows that's like a proper noun in the Marvel Universe, so he's like,
Right.
okay, well, that's all I have to go. I have nothing to go on, and I can't look at Melvin anymore, so I have to leave.
Right.
And he also knows that if he's spotted as Spider-Man, someone might make the connection that Peter Parker and Spider-Man are both in British Columbia, and they'll put it together. So he can't be Spider-Man during the day or in public.
Nice.
Maybe he shouldn't be
Sweet.
Spider-Man.
Nope, because we got to see dope-ass full-page splashes like this.
Yeah.
I like it because, at the very least, Todd isn't whinging about Spider-Man being married. Like, he enjoys the fact that, like, Mary Jane is a part of it.
Right.
But there's also a story about him, like, being out of his element and being in a foreign country, such that it is, and being like, where is Mary Jane when I need her? Like, I need someone to, like, help me kind of tether myself from this, like, chaos.
Yeah, to ground him.
Yeah, and make me feel, like, less
Of how
hopeless and
horrible
gross.
this is,
Yeah, exactly. Like, I need to wrap this up because I need to get back to my hot supermodel wife.
Yeah.
I am done being in Canada. So he goes
Fair.
to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police Department and goes to like eavesdrop. And he's there for 2 hours before someone says anything of note. And I'm like, no! No, you wouldn't!
You would give up after 15 minutes.
But like the joke, I guess, is that it doesn't happen conveniently when he arrives.
right.
But it's
Yeah.
2 hours!
This isn't like a movie where everything just happens to work out the way you want. This is a comic, but this is real.
This is real shit. I gotta
In
subvert
real
your
life,
expectations.
On a
Well, no one-
stakeout, it's gonna be boring.
Yeah, but we don't show him be bored. Like, it'd be one thing if Peter, like he goes, oh shit, they're not there, or someone says, where's Officer Crunch or whatever the fuck his name is, Kron. So it'd be one thing if like the receptionist was like, oh, Inspector Kron won't be here for another 2 hours, and he goes, well, that suits me. So he goes and buys like a bunch of donuts, and he's like got his mask up, and he takes one look at one, and goes, and then just throws them over his shoulder. Like, that'd be one thing to do, and that's not beyond Todd's sense of humor.
Right.
But
he doesn't
instead he
even
just
do that.
hangs there for two.
Yeah.
So
He's
this is
on
the
a
thing.
stakeout.
You always see Peter like picking up a piece of information, but you never understand that like he's been waiting a long
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
For
I
that.
want you
And
to
Todd
know.
wants that to be very clear.
He wants you to know
One
that.
of his powers is his patience.
Yeah, he's like Batman.
Spiders
So-
are very patient.
Yeah.
It's a
But
trait.
They are.
Yeah.
They wait for things to fall into their web.
That's
He's
true.
waiting for the information to land in his web. He'll sense the vibrations and he'll just snatch it up.
That's true.
And that's all that sound is vibrations in the air.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's
he,
true.
Changes in pressure.
he does do those things, so I guess you're not wrong.
Looks
So-
actually pretty deep.
yeah,
Is it a juicy piece of information like a nice blue fly?
more or less. So Anne's the woman who's like the center of the media circus in the first
Yeah.
place. She goes
Yeah,
to
the one who hit the Wendigo.
She-
yeah,
the Wendigo.
she goes to Inspector Kron, and Kron's like, well, if you got something on your mind, you better spit it out. And she's basically like, you're the one who's the media contact for the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, so you are funneling information to like, you're the person who's calling like Greenpeace and telling them about this stuff. Like, why are you doing that? Like, why are you making this bigger and more complicated? Why did you send the boys' medical records to Vancouver when we have a perfectly good medical examiner here in town? Like, what is your problem? And he's like, fuck you, go away. And Spider-Man's like, ooh, things are starting to heat up. And I'm like, are they? So Spider-Man goes home, and Kron is like, oh man, this is getting too hot. I gotta get a lid on this thing. So he calls a
Someone
Get a
asked
lid
a
on it.
question.
You're the one that take the lid off.
He's the one who's heating it up in the first place. So he calls up a clandestine member of the cast who has heretofore not been introduced yet, who is going to help to basically like end this, because it's like, we got to catch this fucking thing in the woods. Like, we got to wrap this up.
Right. Why aren't you out in the woods looking for it?
Right.
What are you doing to find it?
Exactly. So he calls up a special character who's going to help him with this. It's not Wolverine, nor is it anybody who was introduced before. So Peter's like, okay, Spider-Man's not going to be able to help. I can't be seen in the day. Well, Peter Parker works for a metropolitan newspaper. Maybe he'll help. So he goes to Anne.
He can get information.
Yeah. So he goes to her and he's like, hey, maybe it's a Wendigo. She's like, what?
A what ago?
Right. Well, she knows it. No, she's like, oh, from the Indian myths?
Oh, I guess because she's Canadian.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's true.
She's like, of course I know all about them, but I ruled that out.
Right. And she's like, I guess that would be ridiculous, but Thor exists, so I guess anything's possible. And I'm like, I guess you could use the. Is that like a legal term? Like, is that the Thor defense?
Hey,
Right.
I can't
it's
really
like-
prove that this thing exists, but Thor does, so
Yeah.
who knows?
My client says that he grew wings and flew out the window and couldn't have possibly been here when this person was murdered, but Thor exists.
So maybe.
So prove he can't do that. So
Case dismissed.
the first boy's mother collapsed and she's in the hospital, and she's been in the hospital for days.
Right.
And she's like, God, can you imagine what they're going through? And Peter's like, yeah, my girlfriend got killed on the Brooklyn Bridge one time. And proceeds to tell the Gwen Stacy story. She's like,
What?
Wow, that's really sad. And he's like, that's okay. I met my wife and she taught me how to love and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what are you doing?
You don't even know this woman.
No.
She's a redhead, and I'm making sure that she knows I am married.
I guess that's it. He's just telling her his sob story, and I think it's his way of disarming her and showing her trust. Like I'm oversharing.
Now you tell me
Now
something.
you tell me something.
Now it's your
valuable.
turn.
Exactly. So
I didn't ask for any of that, though. I don't care about your story.
no, and it doesn't get anywhere. So Wolverine investigates the situation. He goes to where the Wendigo was hit. He checks out the body thing. He's like, okay, yeah, the Wendigo, its scent was there. Then he goes and like traces where the Wendigo found the body in the first place. And basically he's like, the Wendigo scent is newer than the boy's scent, so like the Wendigo couldn't have killed the boy. Now he's getting involved, more or less because he's like, the hunters won't stop until this child murder thing is wrapped up. So I guess
I gotta stop these murders. Go.
what a hero you are, Wolverine.
It's all in the name of the animals, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta.
Only because
Of
it's
the
causing
animals.
animals to die.
That's
Otherwise,
right.
I wouldn't give a fuck.
And only because it's happening in my backyard.
That's exactly right. So who did the inspector call? He called Thorpe, a woodsman who's also an expert tracker. And so Thorpe immediately tracks and discovers the Wendigo.
Okay.
He's like, behold, gentlemen, your quarry is before you. So Spider-Man's swinging along, just
By
like doing his
tracks and finds it, does he like attack it and kill it?
he's
he
leading
leads
people.
a cadre of hunters to the Wendigo, and one of them fires on the Wendigo, which sends it into a murderous rampage. Wolverine has already discovered that the Wendigo is not responsible for the child murders in the first place, so he's like, I've got to defend the Wendigo!
Right. They're gonna be coming for him.
That's right. But look at how fucking awesome that cover is.
That is awesome.
That was the first book that I bought from this series, and because it looked so awesome.
Yep.
You can imagine my disappointment.
Well, not yet, because we haven't heard anything about this
well,
book.
When Spider-Man and Wolverine don't fight the Wendigo.
Oh. Did they fight the Wendigo at all?
Do they team up
Even at the
all?
end?
They team up, Wolverine fights the Wendigo. All of those things happen, technically, which is the best kind of way things can happen in a comic book. Of course, it is made in the 90s, so we gotta do one of these.
Oh, well.
But it is pretty. I mean, look at all the people he can fit on these two pages.
That's true.
And Wendigo's just like tearing through these hunters, and they're either like horribly constipated or they're being killed by the Wendigo. It's hard to tell. But in any case,
I'll tell you this much, if
they're
they're being-
uncomfortable.
If they're being killed by the Wendigo, they are
way.
no longer constipated.
They're not killed. The Wendigo's just beating them up. So it tears through them, and all but one run away, and they leave Eddie behind. And the Wendigo says its patented phrase, Wendigo, its own name. And Eddie
Oh,
is
it's
like,
a Pokemon.
yeah, yes, it's a pretty big Pokemon. It's like Snorlax. It fucking owns you.
Wendigo.
Anyway, the Wendigo's gonna kill Eddie, and Eddie like practically spits in the eye of the Wendigo. And he's like, yeah, let's see if you killing me is easier than killing a bunch of children, you piece of shit. Ugh. And then Wolverine shows up to save the man. He's like, you better get the fuck out of here. And so the guy runs away, and Wolverine then engages the Wendigo. But not in a way where he's like, I gotta kill the Wendigo. It's more like, the Wendigo's been thrown into a fury. I'm very familiar with that, so I need to calm the Wendigo down by fighting it.
Well, yeah, I gotta wear it down, because I'll heal,
Fight him
Yes,
into submission.
That's
yeah.
right, yeah.
and it'll
that's
get winded.
So Melvin gets a tip that some shit's going down in the woods, so he bangs on Peter's door to get him. And this is just a cheap opportunity for Todd McFarlane to put Peter in Felix the Cat underwear. Todd McFarlane likes Felix the Cat, and he hides Felix the Cat's all over his runs on Spider-Man and in other comic books as well.
Okay.
So he's wearing that. That's just a little tidbit for you. Enjoy.
Sure. Fine.
Peter and Melvin go to the woods to deal, or at least they go to Hope, because remember, they're not there.
Right, they're in Chilliwack, so they got to
Yeah.
drive to get to where the Wendigo is.
Exactly. Wolverine has an ongoing monologue about fighting the Wendigo and how like the Wendigo is exerting itself, but it's also been hurt by the hunter, so it's going to kill itself if he doesn't calm the Wendigo down. But who cares? Because really what it's about is looking at Wolverine fighting the Wendigo. The hunters have escaped the woods and ran right into the middle of the media circus, so we already get some headlines.
Yeah.
Bigfoot attacks adults, Mounties escape death. Daily Bugles, Sasquatch dines on cops. Never changed, Jonah.
He doesn't.
No, but like by the time you know that, you've already picked up a copy.
Well, actually, I guess Eddie never came back.
We got your
But
30
no,
cents. So Wolverine then goes, well, he tore some of my costume, and I've got to go into a primal rage to fight the Wendigo. I guess I'll fight him naked. So he tears his clothes off. Berserker barrage! And Wendigo's like, whoa.
Whoa.
And then leaves.
No thanks, man.
I guess
Not
Wolverine, like,
interested.
he out-extremes Wendigo?
Yeah.
Maybe it's the stench.
Yeah, definitely that. I mean, Wendigo eats people, man.
Does Wolverine even pop his claws in this fight?
No. Remember, he's not trying to kill him.
I know, but that would scare him off.
Yes.
But he doesn't. He just is scared off for no reason.
No, that
No.
puts him further into a fight or flight move.
It's one of those things where it's like the Wendigo roars and Wolverine roars more intimidating.
Oh, and then it's like,
oh, that's the apex predator in these woods, and it licks and it slinks away
I see.
to lick its wounds. So by the time Peter and Melvin arrive, the media's already been thrown into a tizzy because they've got word of mouth from the hunters.
Right.
Wolverine has resigned himself to the fact that, the Wendigo is now part of the innocent slaughter of these extreme hunters, and so he's like, I've got to get some help on the inside. Maybe
How
there's
do
someone.
I protect this Wendigo?
Yes, maybe there's someone in town who can help me. So he sniffs around and he finds Peter. He recognizes his scent. He knows it's Spider-Man. So he just sneaks up on Peter in an alley and he goes, "Hey, Spider-Man, I need your help." But Peter doesn't recognize his voice or his silhouette. So he's like, "What?" And he goes, "Listen, I got a problem with Wendigo. Meet me half a mile due north of town in a couple of hours." Like, why not?
Couple of hours
Why not
again?
now?
No, it's gotta be secret.
Yeah.
I'm naked. I have to get a new costume.
Yes, and he does. So they send him a new costume. Whoever they are. The same people who sent him to save the animals. Greenpeace or something.
There are children being killed. What are you doing?
He doesn't care about those things.
Investigate that.
So Spider-Man...
What is wrong with you? What is Spider-Man doing? Why isn't Spider-Man investigating that?
As far as he's concerned, he's like, I don't know, I'm just here to report on it. But like in any other book,
Spider-Man
Spider-Man would have been
thinks
like,
he
we
is.
gotta save these kids. Well, the kids have already been discovered. Remember, like the thing
know,
killed
The
them. Like,
bodies are dead.
yeah, those bodies are already in the ground. Now that being said, like the most
There might
recent
be more, though.
well, and there are. But yeah, the most recent boy was killed during like the media for.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but you have to understand, according to Spider-Man, he still thinks the Wendigo killed the kids.
yes. Well, at the very least, yes. So Spider-Man swings into the area where Wolverine designated it, and he arrives, and Wolverine is already there wearing a different costume. That way we get mileage. I really do feel like Todd knows he's leaving, and he's like, I gotta get all of my... Because he hates Marvel. Like,
Don't forget.
He works for them, and he hates them. He hates what they did to Jack Kirby. He hates their practices. He hates their influence over the marketplace.
Right.
Like, he hates them. So for him,
But
he's
I
like,
do like a paycheck.
yes, but he's like, I'm never gonna draw Wolverine again.
Right. This
So
is
like,
it.
I've got to draw him in the brown suit, and I got to draw him in the yellow suit. And the way he gets in the yellow suit is because he just rips his clothes off and roars into the night at the Wendigo. So now he needs another costume, and he wears this one. And it's like, look, you know what? He looks awesome, and I
Fine.
love it. No complaints. Also, he smokes, which Joe Quesada, of course, like fucking lost his goddamn mind over, because God help us if a person who's like 157 years old, who can't get cancer and has a healing factor, puffs on a cigarette for more than 2 panels in a mainstream comic book, right?
Which suit is he supposed to be wearing right now?
I think it's the brown one because Spider-Man is like, why are you in your old yellow suit? And I'm like, but it's 1991. The suit is the yellow suit, but sometimes it's not. So I think in X-Men 1, it's the yellow suit. No, it is the brown suit.
The
Yeah.
brown suit should be his stealth I'm in the woods suit.
Right, because it
blends.
It blends.
This, he stands out.
Yeah. There's no thought given to why he's wearing these suits. I think it's that normally he's wearing the brown suit in the continuity right now. Like in 1990, it's the brown suit. But wasn't the yellow suit cool? And I want an excuse to draw it, so here it is.
Fair.
So Wolverine is like, let me bring you up to speed, Spider-Man. Wendigo's innocent. There's a man in the woods who is murdering children. Your job is to solve that problem.
Couldn't he smell?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
He
Yeah.
can easily solve this
Why
problem
doesn't Wolverine solve the problem with his abilities?
because this is a Spider-Man book.
Right.
So Wolverine asks Spider-Man to solve the case. He doesn't, so Wolverine solves the case. That's what happens. This is a Spider-Man book in which Spider-Man is the supporting character.
And fails.
Yeah.
Sweet. All right.
And Spider-Man's like, cool. What the fuck am I supposed to do about that? Like, I'm trying, but like, I don't know who is responsible, and I'm never gonna find out.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. You stop crime all the time. How do you do that? Just do that.
Yeah, I guess that's
here.
true.
And there's only the one crime probably happening
Yeah.
right now. So just focus all your efforts on that one.
Well, that's
It's a big area.
well, and Wolverine isn't really even telling him like solve the crime, even though he definitely is, because Wolverine is not concerned with the crime at all. It's that he's like, you need to convince the police and the Brooks woman that it's not Wendigo killing the children, so that they will stop hunting the Wendigo, and then maybe they can focus their energies on finding the regular human being, which, by the way, is a reasonable assumption. Like, I appreciate, the funny thing is, Spider-Man tries and fails to convince the police and Brooks to drop the Wendigo story and to instead believe, for a second, that maybe a mythological beast is not murdering these children, but in fact, a human being is doing it. And none of them buy it. And it's not that Brooks is like, this is the story of my life, and I don't even give a shit about the truth. I just need it to be the Wendigo because I need a Wendigo.
She saw it.
Right.
No, she saw it. Like, she knows. But, like, for her, she's like, no, I saw the Wendigo. It found the body. I'm supposed to believe that it found it and put it there so people would find it. Like, it feels bad.
It's just a big dumb animal. Why would it do that?
Exactly. And it's like, maybe because it is a big dumb animal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And so he goes to her and he's like, it's not the Wendigo. My sources tell me that it's a guy. And she's like, what sources? He's like, I can't tell you because it's Wolverine. Like, you know,
Right.
I can't tell you that. And she's like, well, if you can't tell me, then I don't believe you. Fuck off. I thought you were different. And so he leaves.
Right.
And
Who vetted your sources?
yeah. And he's like,
what editorial board cleared this as a valid?
Come on, I told you about my dead
The
girlfriend.
X-Men?
Just trust me.
right, yeah, exactly. Don't you? Oh, my Gwen.
Remember Gwen?
Yeah, she couldn't care
Oh,
less.
it's Gwen all over again. Oh.
So Wendigo is bleeding to death because he got shot by a shotgun in the woods by hunters
Doesn't
like
it have
yesterday.
a healing factor?
It does, but like it's not like Wolverine's, you know? Like it's
Right.
It was
you can
shot.
still die from a gunshot.
Yeah. It collapses in the river. There's like a whole monologue, not by anybody. It's the omniscient narrator who talks about like how it feels and what it needs, and so Wolverine discovers it and it's just bleeding out into the river. And Wolverine's like,
Oh man, that's gonna get infected.
yeah, and Wolverine's like, someone's gonna pay for this. Oh yeah, Spider-Man better be doing his job because I'm sick of just standing in the woods waiting for shit to happen. And I'm like, maybe then you should leave and do something.
I am. I'm standing over the Wendigo.
Yep.
I'm
so,
protecting his slowly dying body.
yeah. Well, no, he actually performs emergency surgery on the Wendigo.
Okay.
So he does, and he pulls the bullet out, and he just gives it to... It's been a while since we did a watch gag on this show. So he
That's just.
I know!
What the fuck?
I know! 5 parts!
This is the 4th book we're in.
How could this be 5 parts, but your Morbius story is 2 or 3? Like, how? So you know, Peter goes to the police and he tells them the same thing, and they're like, "Go away!" And then one of them is like, "Hey, Officer Kron, you know what the fuck, man? Like this kid says this," and he's like, "What? Oh shit!" So then someone get Thorpe. Where the hell's he? You know, things are happening.
What is Peter's argument?
That someone that I can't tell you the identity of told me that it's not Wendigo, it's a guy.
Who would care if Wolverine said this?
Right. Well, Wolverine's like, I'm on a like covert mission. I don't want anyone to know Wolverine's fucking around in the woods. Also, why would Wolverine talk to Spider-Man? Except there's a precedent for that because in Spider-Man vs. Wolverine, Peter Parker's friend Ned Leeds was murdered, and Wolverine was involved.
That's right.
But whatever. So Wolverine like pulls the bullet out of Wendigo, and that's what like triggers Wendigo to like heal itself, or at least get slightly better.
Oh, it was
Maybe
a
it was-
bullet with chemicals on it. Suppressed his healing factor.
It's just a
Yeah,
bullet.
it's lead.
Oh.
Lead suppresses its healing factor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That's sure. So Spider-Man struck out twice, and he's like, "Great. Then I guess I gotta pin all my hopes on Melvin. I'll tell Melvin that the new angle of the story is it ain't the
no.
Wendigo. It's a guy." And
Melvin's like, hey, you're the photographer. I'm the journalist.
yeah.
Yeah. Do you want Me to get fired?
That's it.
Why would I do that?
Yeah, yeah. Only Melvin doesn't bring up either of those very reasonable arguments. He's just too stupid to really understand it.
Know your place, Shutterbug.
It's basically that. And it's just like, okay, so we watched Peter Parker fail 3 different times while Wolverine performs surgery on the Wendigo. How much is this issue?
Too much.
Holy
Too much.
crap.
$1.75. The art is really fun and cool though. And the thing you have to understand, it's not just that it's not like I don't want you to think like, oh, this is actually the apex of art. It's more like no one is drawing any comic book like this.
Yeah.
Night and fucking day. Plus, you're reading a Spider-Man comic that feels like Twin Peaks and ripped from the headlines. Because of course, like the media circuses were going on. This is like the beginning of like the inception of 24-hour news and stuff. So it's like the idea of a media circus and headline sensationalism is happening right now in the real world. And so this is a contemporary comic book in every respect of the word, if it's 1990.
Right. As long as the year you're in is 1990.
That's exactly right. So Thorpe shows up.
He's the tracker.
The tracker. Yeah. Thorpe the tracker goes to Inspector Kron. And
I was like, what the fuck? They told me that Wendigo's not the killer?
Yeah.
You told me Wendigo was the killer.
Well, and like, it's been 10 days. I want that thing dead by day 12. And I'm like, why day 12? Like, why not tonight? Like, if you want to throw cliches, you got to be like, you got 24 hours.
You're just picking arbitrary numbers.
Yeah, just say 24 hours. Like, what are you doing? But no, I'll give you 2 full days. That's a reasonable amount of time.
I'm not unreasonable.
Like, what? You're screaming at him in your office. But I guess, you know what it is? This is the Canadian version of the, like, give me your gun and your badge.
Right.
I'm going to give you 2 days, okay? You got 2 days, eh?
I'm sorry I had to be so hard on you, but...
You know, them's the breaks, eh? Look, I don't care about, like, your expediency or your desperation. Like, all I want is your men and all the hunters and all the media people out of my woods, because I live in the woods, and I'm a woods guy. Woods. That's it. It's just, I'm motivated by the woods.
Does he want to protect his animals, too?
No, he has no interest.
No,
he tracks them.
Get out.
I don't
want to see you
Yeah, he's a
anymore.
mountain man. Like, leave me alone.
Yeah.
Never mind.
No, what?
Nope, I'm not gonna say it. No, I want everyone out of the woods, because he's the killer.
Oh, what? How could you think that? Not because
there's no other characters
in
this
other fucking characters
book.
unless Brooks killed them and then doubled back and hit the Wendigo.
That's the perfect story. The Wendigo's the killer.
Yeah.
I finally have escaped
Right,
him.
like she murdered the boy. And then Wendigo found the body, and she clandestinely hid it on the way from murdering the boy. Like,
no, not clandestinely. It's like, oh my God, the Wendigo's gonna give me up.
Yeah,
I'm gonna kill that Wendigo.
Right, she tried to murder the Wendigo. Yeah, there's only 3 characters in this fucking book that aren't Spider-Man and Wolverine.
The only other person it could have been would be Kron.
Right. It's either Kron, Thorpe, or Brooks.
Yeah, it's just someone else. And that's the
It's
moral of the
Melvin.
story. It's never
I
who
wouldn't
you
put
think.
it past him.
It's Melvin. Melvin's the murderer.
Of course, only a madman would put ketchup on donuts and murder young children in the woods.
Honestly, like, if Todd is influenced by Twin Peaks, it might as well be Melvin. In terms of, like, it being
But how would Melvin have
earned.
killed that boy from New York?
He flew.
Oh, he diabolical.
Yeah.
He
flew to
went through the
Canada,
backwards room or the black
murdered
room or what is
someone.
it?
Oh, yeah, the Black Lodge.
Yeah, the Black Lodge.
Yeah, he went to the Black Lodge.
Oh my God! All right.
Did we even talk about that? There's a reference to it where Spider-Man says on his way to British Columbia that Mary Jane promises to tape The Simpsons and Twin Peaks for him.
No.
We did not talk about that.
Yeah, well, that's
You said that there was a reference. But
that is the reference. The reference is that Spider-Man watches The Simpsons and Twin Peaks.
That's fun.
Anyway, so Wolverine basically, like, he saves the Wendigo heals, and it stands before him, and then the two of them have an unspoken understanding. Wolverine does speak, but Wendigo doesn't, and it's like, it might as well...
Whoa. Wendigo does talk. It
Yeah,
just
he
says
says Wendigo.
Right.
And it's like Groot, where like every syllable in Wendigo is a full sentence. No, it's just basically Wolverine and Wendigo come to a truce, and...
They reach a mutual understanding.
Yep, and...
They nod at each other and then walk away.
Now, Wolverine like talks at Wendigo for a good like 4 panels. It's just that like it doesn't matter because nothing is said.
I'm amazed they're not talking about. This was a conversation that lasted 4 hours.
Right. I wish it did. It would have saved us having to read the conversation.
2 hours. Everything's 2 hours.
Everything's 2 hours. So Spider-Man's like, man, I'm bad at this. These poor children and their families and stuff like that. I guess Spider-Man is the human element of the story. Like he's the one who's like reacting to to the gravity of it. And I'm like, this is a Spawn story. It's like, children are being murdered in the woods. Our superhero our title character is not related to them in any way,
Yep.
isn't connected to them, and doesn't save them.
Yeah, and can't do anything about it at all.
No, it's just
It reflects on it.
You know what it is? It's like the world is fucked up. That's every issue of Spawn. It's just like, whoa, the world, oh my god.
There's nothing we can do though.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's literally the opposite of a superhero.
Yeah, but that's Image. Like, that's the max, you
Yeah.
know? But, so Spider-Man is going to meet back up with Wolverine. Wolverine and Wendigo, basically, like, they have their, like, ceasefire, and he convinces Wendigo to show him where the other body is buried.
Oh, so Wendigo has intel.
Yeah, and I love,
If only
actually,
someone bothered to ask him.
this 9-panel grid that ends the issue.
Sorry, ask him. Come on, Wendigo. Come on, where's the body?
Come on.
Come on, Lassie.
Dude, that happens.
That's
Like,
what happens.
Yeah, but like the depiction of this in this 9-panel grid is actually really awesome. Like we see the like
It's like keeps pulling out.
from like the fly to Wolverine finding the body, and it's punctuated by what Spider-Man is thinking. So it's like, I just hope he was able to find something, and it's like, oh, Wolverine finds something, all right, a body in the woods. You know, like another body. It's horrible and grotesque, but it's like, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Spider-Man meets up with Wolverine and Wendigo, and he's like, oh, hey, what's going on with Wendigo here? And Wolverine's like, listen, I'm gonna, like, you fucked up. I've got to go into town. I'm gonna, like, sniff around, figure out what I need to figure out. You need to stay here and watch Wendigo and make sure he doesn't wander off or get killed by hunters. That is what Spider-Man is relegated
Wendigo babysitting duty.
to. That is exactly what it is.
Good friggin' lord.
Yeah. The two of them, like, have a kind of snippy back and forth in which Spider-Man's like, wait a minute, what do you mean you're gonna bench me? Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
And so he grabs Wolverine. Wolverine's like, yeah, I'm cool looking. Like, that's it. It's just an excuse to
don't
draw
grab me.
cool looking Wolverine. Like, Wolverine, you know, teaches Spider-Man a lesson by grabbing by the throat. And he was like, why should I be the one waiting here? And he's like, 1. And like his claw comes up. We've got 3 dead boys and counting. 2. We've got hundreds of dead animals and counting. And 2.5. And the third claw like goes up into Spider-Man's nose and like pokes it. And he's like, I'm a moody little cuss. Like, I'm an asshole. Fuck you. Number 2.5 is don't ask me for a third option.
Because I said so, that's why.
That's right.
Number 4, fuck you. Number 5, eat shit.
That's it.
I can't have more than 6 points though.
Yeah.
No, it's true. So,
And number 6, you've done literally nothing and I've done everything.
Yes.
So I guess I'm the only one who can do it because
Yep.
you sure as fuck can't.
yeah, we get the Wolverine equivalent of Lucy's. I'll give you 5 good reasons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. From a Charlie Brown's Christmas special.
Yep.
So Spider-Man webs Wolverine while he's leaving.
Didn't Wolverine fail the first attempt of
Yeah.
getting the hunters to stop him?
Oh, well, yeah, he did fail at
He
that,
did fail
yeah.
at that, but like
he
Spider-Man
found a
just
body,
kept
so,
failing.
yeah.
You know, Wolverine's being at least more productive.
Yeah.
Spider-Man webs Wolverine to try and like stop him. Wendigo cuts the web line and then like screams in Spider-Man's face, and he's like, "Oh, okay, sorry, big fella." Oh. So then Wolverine goes sniffing around.
Yay, we do get him in like Canadian
outfit.
Attire.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So he just Wolverine sniffs around and he's just looking for like the scent of the man who was smelled on the dead body.
Right.
He did identify.
All he needs to do is just go into town and be like, it's that one.
Yep.
And because he's like technically a member of the Canadian government, if he's through Alpha Flight, like he could just say, it's
I
that
got him.
one.
He's under arrest.
My nose is a registered like polygraph machine. Like,
Right. Yep.
So Anna's like writing her next column about this, but Peter's words are like infecting her, and she's like, "What if I'm wrong? What if
it wasn't the Wendigo?
What if it wasn't the Wendigo? What if it's just a guy murdering people in the woods, which it ever always is?"
Right. Well, in defense of the people who assume it's Wendigo, it is a Wendigo because it ate a person.
Yes, that.
So, like, it's not
Right, but we all thought
totally
it was a Sasquatch in the
implausible.
beginning.
Well, that's true.
So like we only just started the Wendigo
Yeah,
angle.
that's true.
But the Vancouver wouldn't. But the Vancouver Sun wouldn't let it go, and they wrote, "When will Sasquatch die?" And then Sasquatch of Alpha Flight is like, "This is unreal. These headlines. This is really bad for my
This is
self-esteem.
outrageous.
Look at this.
Have you guys seen this?
Yeah.
They're not even talking about me.
Yeah. Well, it's like they're just slandering me." And Puck is like, "Well, Wolverine said he'd handle it, so let's just let them do what they're doing. Let's not be in the book any more than we already are."
Right. Let's not be in the book for more than one page.
Well, Sasquatch, we can't let you be anywhere near Wendigo in this because then someone will notice you just drew an orange Wendigo. So then Wolverine brandishes his claws at Thorpe, and then some time passes. Let's assume 2 hours. and Spider-Man and Wendigo are playing like these
rummy.
These little pigs,
Oh.
like this little pig
Yep.
went to market.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And Wolverine shows up and he gives them a hard time, and I'm like, why are you giving him a hard time? He's doing what you fucking asked.
I'm
Like,
babysitting.
Right. Yep.
And it's working.
Right, exactly. So Spider-Man is like, okay, I'm ready to be back in the book. And Wolverine's like, okay, I've got it all figured out. There are 6 Mounties on their way over here right now to descend on Wendigo. What I need you to do is stop them, because the Mounties are going to fuck things up for me. So you're going to, in the woods, in the darkness, basically slow the Mounties down from doing anything.
Mounties know where Wendigo is?
Oh, they're coming in. They're,
And as a Canadian, I have too much respect for the MRCP.
the
RCMP.
That's it.
Yeah.
To do them any harm.
Yeah,
I'm not
I would
allowed
just
as a
kill
Canadian.
them.
Exactly.
But you seem to know how to bring people in without that,
That's
so
it.
maybe I'll send you after
Wolverine
them.
says something like that, where he's
Yeah.
like, I don't understand how Spider-Man doesn't just murder the bad guys every time. So
I
Spider-Man
pull my punches and I don't use knives.
I also have webs,
Yeah.
which are like tailor-made
The-
for wrapping people up.
The thing that makes me special isn't 6 knives that come out of my hands. So, it's like you all heard the old expression, like, to a hammer, everything looks like a nail, To a Wolverine, everything looks like a problem you can solve by murdering it. So then Kron is, like, in the woods, he's
It's
with
like,
his
all right, I
guys.
guess I'll go into the woods.
Yes.
Oh no, they're going into the woods. They're gonna find Wendigo. What are we
Yeah.
gonna do?
Yeah.
Good thing they didn't do this like 3 days prior.
Yeah. So,
Like, I don't understand. Why are they suddenly now a problem?
well,
going
because
into the woods.
because Wolverine, like, he shook things up in town, in his
So
his
they
cowboy
weren't
hat.
searching the woods before?
No, they were searching the woods,
Just
but
not
now
in the right direction.
now they're searching the woods that Wolverine wants them to be searching in,
Did
so
they
that he can spring a
recognize
trap.
Wolverine
No.
when he came went into town?
Absolutely not. He was wearing a hat.
No, he wears his disguise.
You know, the hat he always wears.
Yeah.
So Wolverine happens upon Kron. He actually he uses his claws and cuts the barrel of his gun. It's actually a fun looking sequence. But he says, "All right, Bub, I'm looking for a confession and I'm gonna get it. So come with me. Let's go. I gotta show you something."
I'm looking for a confession. I'm gonna hang you by this tree for 1 hour,
Yep.
and if you don't tell me,
you're gonna fall in leaves. So Spider-Man stops the Mounties. Meanwhile, Kron joins Wolverine into the woods, and Wolverine has Thorpe all tied up. And he's like, holy crap, what's going on here? Is that Thorpe? And he's like, oh yeah, I know, I got the whole story. He's got his hand, like his claws up to Thorpe's head. And he's like, you're freaking right it is. And now you just stand there, Inspector, and I'll make everything clear to you. And he runs down the whole thing, like the first boy that the reporter found wasn't killed by Bigfoot. And, he figures, like it was killed by a dude who molested him and then stripped him of his clothes and buried him in the woods. And then the second boy was found on someone's property, but he wasn't called in by the right people. And that one was mutilated by dogs, and but the other one wasn't. And just this, he lays it out on Front Street, like the order of operations about the 3 boys that were found, how they were murdered, and how they were murdered by one person, and one of them was like murdered in a distinctive way to try and throw people off the scent. Nobody recognized the fact that there's like a consistency that all 3 boys are runaways and little boys and like of a particular type. That like they were actually just the type for a serial killer.
Okay.
But
So Wolverine cracks the case.
he cracks the
Wolverine's
case
Batman.
and he's like, it's Thorpe. So Wolverine like yells at Thorpe and then says, you're sick and you're gonna die. For all the boys, you're gonna die. And he stabs him in the stomach with his adamantium claws.
Oh.
And meanwhile, Spider-Man
I'm gonna
is
give you 3 reasons why you're gonna die.
it's 1, 2, 3, man. So
Wait, why does he bring Kron there if he's just gonna murder this guy?
Indeed. And then, so Thorpe like keels over dead. And then he grabs Thorpe's body and he points at Kron and he goes, pretty sick, huh? Except for the fact that you're the guy who did it.
What?
What?
I just didn't want any witnesses.
Oh, he didn't actually kill him.
No. But
He used Thorpe to like.
to lure Kron in. He's like,
Yeah.
I just didn't want any witnesses for what I'm gonna do to you after I reveal to you the thing that you already know, which is what I just said, but instead it has different proper nouns. Like, all that stuff happened, but Thorpe didn't do it. You did it, Kron, and you sent the morgue reports to Vancouver to slow things down, and you called all of those media people, and you like leaked information to the press to just make it get more
look
chaotic.
Like it
and-
was.
Well, and make it look like the Bigfoot. And
Yeah.
you spurned on the hunters and all the people who were like interested in the Wendigo just to make things more chaotic.
And like twist the angle.
Exactly. Just make it all about that. And
Deflect it.
Yeah. Like, and hide in plain sight, because like the
Yeah,
more
but also draw like a tremendous amount of attention
Absolutely.
to the murder you committed.
that's very true.
Probably not a good idea.
Not the smartest
Well, here's
move.
the thing. if the murder just goes as normal and they just go after forensic evidence, they'll find me
Yeah.
eventually.
Will they?
Yeah. So
You're a cop. I feel like
Oh,
you
no.
could probably find a way to get out of it.
this cop's pretty stupid. So
You tricky bastard.
so Kron is like, no, and then Wendigo shows up and he's like, Wendigo. And he's like, oh, there actually is a Bigfoot in the woods and it's gonna fucking eat me. And he goes, yeah, it's gonna be much worse than what I do to you unless you tell me what happened. And then he goes like, okay, so like, yeah, I did like, I molested them, right? But then like they said they'd like run away and then they tell people, so I had to murder them, you know? Like, that's what I do. I'm sorry, you know? All I wanted to do was have sex with them. I didn't want to like kill them, but I had to, you know? I'm sorry.
Yikes.
And then Wolverine takes the tape recorder out of his pocket and hands it to Thorpe. And he's like, all right, Thorpe, you go bring this to the proper authorities. And then, Kron goes on for 10 minutes.
What? Why?
Kron's, like, his confession is 10 minutes long after we already get all the information.
What does he continue to talk about?
That's what I want to
The
know.
details, maybe?
It's just too goddamn long. If it was 2 or 3 minutes, I'd understand. 5 tops.
Maybe he
but
talked about
10
all the other boys.
Right.
But
Well, and there
beyond
are more
just
boys.
these 3.
No,
Yeah.
there are many more boys. So
Oh,
maybe it's 10
Jesus.
minutes of
So
more.
they got to get the whole
This is
confession.
disturbing.
Yeah, this
so
is-
they could link all the murders together so they can solve all the murders
Exactly,
that they didn't even know
exactly.
they needed to solve.
That's right. That's right. This is Billy Kincaid from like
Yep.
the first arc of Spawn.
Yep. That's exactly what this is.
Yeah. Only Todd's like, wait, I can do this, but more and like realer.
Yep.
And I can kill Kron by having Spawn shove popsicles into his body. Anyway, so then Wolverine hands the tape recorder to Thorpe, and Kron makes a break for it. And Kron just runs into the woods, and then he is blown away by one of the hunters who was just in the woods
Right. doing his
over
thing.
hunting.
Ah.
Just thinking he was a moose.
Yep.
So this guy thinks he murdered an innocent person for a second
That's right, for just a second.
until
Until
he
they
did-
actually find the tape
Yeah.
recorder on
Instead,
him.
he did murder a man, though.
he did do
but
that.
Maybe
and
a deserving man.
He would go to jail for that.
Yeah.
You can't just shoot someone. Be like, oh, you knew he was the murderer
No,
when
no,
you
no.
shot him.
No, the hunter was just
Oh
shooting
no,
into
no!
the
I
woods.
was just shooting randomly into the woods.
I was just shooting at things that move in the forest.
Like you do.
if he didn't
you
want to get
can't
shot, he
do
could have just
that.
been running like a gazelle.
Well, he
he
wasn't
should have been wearing orange.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't shoot at Wolverine. Bright yellow suit.
That's right.
I mean, the reality is he wouldn't be in trouble because that does happen, and they never get in trouble.
That's right. And he did. It's an open and shut case. Brooks, her conscience grows 3 sizes that day, and she like changes the angle to be the truth.
Oh wow, how noble!
And as a consequence of doing it, her story is moved to Section B, page 20. And it's just RCMP Inspector Kills Boys. Like
Because
that's
it's not as sensational. That
No.
is much more
That is
sensational.
very sensational.
no.
because it's
not when
real.
there's big feet.
Yeah, but like a real paper would cover
Yeah.
this story.
Yeah.
Unlike the Bigfoot thing, which would generally not really get much
Yeah, but
mainstream press coverage.
These newspapers
Although in the
every
Marvel
single
world,
day.
maybe.
Yeah, but every single day the newspaper headlines are like Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Wendigos, like something is murdering these children. And then at the end it's like, oh, it's just some guy. But I mean, it was a chief police inspector.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we don't want to prove that, we were wrong.
That's pretty bad.
We don't like printing redactions.
guess.
Yeah.
Well, that's just Todd's view
Yeah.
of the
Of the
media.
news cycle.
It's
That's
not
right.
Realistic.
No.
That's just
And like, look at how it's set up. Where it's RCMP, Inspector Kills Boys, Section B, page 20.
it's showing you
What a
How
condemnation.
dare they?
far through the issue it is.
Oh, Wolverine says himself, pretty sick world when the truth isn't worth printing.
Well,
so-
no, but it literally is worth printing.
They do print it,
They
though.
did print it.
It is printed.
Yeah, so should Wolverine go to the newspaper's
Yeah.
headquarters and be like, you put this on the front page and scratch this front page and
Yeah,
all their
exactly.
cars or something?
He should.
Oh yeah.
So he doesn't.
Front page news.
So the Wendigo slinks away into the forest. The news, they leave. Like everything just
Yeah, just-
immediately recoils from the town, and the town is back to being nothing. But
Because that's also not a news story, apparently.
that's right. It's over. A guy did it. Okay, well, open and shut
Oh,
then.
okay. Well, that's normal,
And there's
so.
there's a literally recorded confession. Okay, whatever.
Oh, we're the monsters?
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm not going to
Oh.
print that. But there are at least a few more bodies out here in the forest, and the least I could do is take them to town. So Wolverine finds, digs up, and then just dumps extra small murdered boys on the on Main Street. That's the news article.
That is so weird.
I know. Just here you go. And then
And a random person also brings the body out, be like, "Oh yeah, this was also killed by the police too."
yeah, that guy. He also killed my wife.
Oh yeah, me too. I got one over here.
Wow, that Kron was prolific.
Also, apparently, really went outside of his range of killing them.
Right? Well, it's crime passion. So then Peter Parker is on the plane flying home, and his internal monologue is spectacular. He doesn't quite say, like, I wasn't in this book, but he says, "Nice job, Pete. You got dead boys, dead animals, and a dead child molester. Seems like we really achieved a lot today." But he's mad at Wolverine. Because Wolverine, let that guy die. Wolverine would have killed that guy. He's like, I'm getting sick of these so-called superheroes and their methods. Like Ghost Rider and Wolverine and Punisher. They make me sick. But I wonder if, we are entering a world where their methods are the way to go. I hope not. Hopefully Mary Jane can convince me otherwise. I'm like, what?
What? Man, that really makes me sick. But I guess that's the way it's going, so I'm on board with it. Unless Mary Jane can convince me that's not.
And I guess she does, because he doesn't straight up murder Morbius in the next story. But if you want this collection, you can, of course, pick it up in the comments down below. And we'll see you guys next time with an all-new episode of Back Issues. I'm Sal.
I'm Ethan.
I'm Ben.
Keep reading. Maybe not this, but
I like that he just draws characters that will be Spawn characters. Just crazy proportions.
Yeah.
But here, he does offer a reason why